Imagine pouring your soul into an idea. Years of sacrifice, sleepless nights, the relentless grind of turning a dream into a tangible blueprint. You stand at the precipice of a life-changing opportunity, ready to pitch your vision to the very gatekeepers who could unlock its true potential. And then, in a single dismissive gesture, your innovation, your effort, your very identity is waved away, deemed unviable, too niche, or worse, simply unseen. But what if, days later, the very world that dismissed you comes knocking, begging to be a part of the future they almost overlooked? This is the story of that seismic shift, a testament to the power of unwavering vision in the face of ingrained bias. Welcome to Engaging Voices, where we amplify the powerful, often untold narratives that define our shared human experience. Today, we delve into the high-stakes world of corporate ambition and the deeply personal battle against prejudice, exploring how perseverance, innovation, and sheer audacity can shatter glass ceilings and redefine success. This is a story of corporate power struggles, the quiet triumph of marginalized voices, and the undeniable force of true merit when given the chance to shine. Elijah Vance had always seen the world differently. Where others saw waste, he saw resources. Where others saw limitations, he saw opportunities. His mind, a whirlwind of algorithms and ecological consciousness, had conceived of something revolutionary. EcoLoop, a hyper-efficient, AI-driven platform designed to optimize waste management and resource recovery for large-scale industrial operations. It wasn't just a recycling app. It was a comprehensive circular economy solution, promising companies massive cost savings, reduced environmental impact, and a tangible pathway to genuine sustainability. For 3 arduous years, Elijah had breathed life into EcoLoop. He'd coded tirelessly in his cramped, overheated apartment, fueled by instant coffee and an unshakable belief that this wasn't just a business, it was a mission. He'd foregone social life, depleted his meager savings, and endured countless rejections from skeptical investors who couldn't grasp the scale of his vision. He was a Black entrepreneur in a tech space still overwhelmingly dominated by a singular demographic, facing not just the universal challenges of a startup, but the subtle, insidious barriers of implicit bias. Every pitch felt like an uphill battle, not just to sell his idea, but to first prove his inherent capability and worth. Finally, after securing a modest seed investment and perfecting a dazzling prototype, he landed the meeting, Omnicorp Solutions. They were industry giants, a sprawling conglomerate that managed logistics and waste for hundreds of manufacturing facilities worldwide. Their endorsement, their partnership, would catapult EcoLoop from a brilliant concept into a global phenomenon. The meeting was set for a Tuesday morning, 9 a.m., in Omnicorp's gleaming, intimidating headquarters. Elijah, impeccably dressed, his presentation polished to a mirror sheen, walked in with a mix of nervous anticipation and quiet confidence. He believed in EcoLoop. He knew its value. He was ushered into a sterile, glass-walled conference room. Across the long mahogany table sat Mr. Alistair Finch, Omnicorp's Executive Vice President of Operations. Finch was a man carved from the corporate ideal, silver hair impeccably coiffed, a perfectly tailored suit, and eyes that held the cool, detached assessment of a seasoned executive. Finch was known for his ruthlessness, his focus on the bottom line, and his unwavering belief in traditional business models. He was a gatekeeper, the kind of man who had seen 1,000 pitches and dismissed 999 of them. Elijah began. He spoke with passion, with precision, outlining EcoLoop's innovative AI algorithms, its predictive analytics for waste streams, its integrated logistics, and its compelling ROI. He presented data, projected savings, showcased the intuitive user interface. He spoke of EcoLoop not just as a technology, but as a paradigm shift, a future where industry and ecology could coexist, profitably. Finch listened, or appeared to. His gaze was fixed, unblinking, his fingers occasionally drumming a soft rhythm on the table. He didn't ask many questions during the presentation, which Elijah initially took as a sign of deep engagement. Perhaps Finch was simply absorbing the information, impressed by the sheer scope and detail. When Elijah finished, the silence in the room stretched, taut and uncomfortable. Finch leaned back, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips. "Mr. Vance," he began, his voice smooth, almost condescendingly so, "a very ambitious presentation. You've certainly put in the hours, I'll give you that." Elijah waited, heart pounding. This was it. "However," Finch continued, a dismissive wave of his hand accompanying the word, "we here at Omnicorp are very much invested in proven methodologies. Your EcoLoop, it's highly theoretical, and frankly a solution looking for a problem that, in our experience, simply doesn't exist on the scale you imagine. Waste management, Mr. Vance, is a logistical challenge, not an existential crisis to be solved by some nebulous, AI-driven circular economy. We have our systems. They work. They're established." Elijah's mind raced. "But Mr. Finch," he interjected, his voice firm despite the tremor in his hands, "the data clearly shows." Finch cut him off with another dismissive gesture. "Data can be manipulated, Mr. Vance, or simply misinterpreted. Your projections, while grand, lack the grounding in real-world, large-scale industrial application that Omnicorp requires. And, frankly, this eco-friendly angle, while commendable, is often more about optics than true economic viability for a corporation of our size. We are not a charity, Mr. Vance. We are a business." The undertones were palpable. It wasn't just a rejection of his business model. It felt like a rejection of him, his passion, his perspective, perhaps even his identity as a young black man daring to innovate in their established, conservative world. It wasn't explicitly about race, but the dismissal felt layered with an unspoken dismissal of his lived experience, his understanding of a problem that perhaps someone like Finch, from a different background, could not fully grasp or would choose to ignore. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Vance," Finch concluded, rising from the table, signaling the abrupt end of the meeting. "We'll be in touch if anything changes, but I highly doubt it. You may want to consider a less disruptive approach for your next venture." Elijah walked out of Omnicorp headquarters that day with a leaden heart. The rejection was a physical weight. The meticulous preparation, the sacrifices, the unwavering belief, all seemed to crumble under Finch's dismissive gaze. He had faced skepticism before, but this was different. This wasn't just a no. It felt like a door slammed shut, not just on EcoLoop, but on the very idea that a voice like his could bring about change in a world so deeply entrenched in its ways. The glittering facade of Omnicorp mocked his idealism, leaving him adrift in a sea of doubt. The days following the Omnicorp meeting were cloaked in a heavy, suffocating silence for Elijah. The initial sting of rejection had morphed into a dull, persistent ache. Every corner of his small apartment seemed to echo Finch's condescending tone, his dismissive words. Highly theoretical, solution looking for a problem, more about optics than true economic viability. The phrases replayed endlessly in his mind, each one a tiny chisel chipping away at his confidence. He tried to distract himself, diving back into code, tweaking algorithms, refining projections. But the spark was dimmed. He found himself staring blankly at his screen, the vibrant lines of code suddenly appearing sterile, lifeless. Had he been naive? Had he poured his life into a pipe dream? The question gnawed at him, a relentless parasite feeding on his self-doubt. His mentor, Lena Dubois, a seasoned entrepreneur who had built and sold several successful tech ventures, sensed his despondency. She called him, her voice a balm of calm reason. "Elijah," she said gently, "rejection is part of the game, especially when you're innovating, especially when you're challenging the status quo, and especially when you're doing it from outside the established networks." Lena didn't explicitly mention race, but the unspoken understanding hung between them. They both knew the extra layer of scrutiny, the additional hoops, the subtle discounting of ideas that didn't fit the preconceived notions of success, particularly when presented by black founders. It wasn't always malicious intent, but the cumulative effect of implicit bias, of narratives that privileged certain backgrounds and experiences over others. But Lena, Elijah admitted, his voice raw, it felt different. It wasn't just no. It felt like he couldn't even see the value. Like, my perspective, my understanding of the problem, was inherently flawed because it wasn't his. Lena sighed. That, my friend, is the Everest we climb. Some gatekeepers aren't just guarding the door, they're guarding their worldview. Your model, EcoLoop, it's disruptive. It asks them to unlearn deeply ingrained habits, to see a different kind of profitability. And people like Finch, they are heavily invested in the current system, not just financially, but intellectually and emotionally. Change is terrifying to them, especially when it comes from an unexpected source. Her words were a lifeline. They didn't erase the pain, but they reframed it. It wasn't about his idea being inherently bad. It was about the resistance of deeply entrenched power structures. This realization, far from diminishing his resolve, rekindled a stubborn flame within him. This wasn't just a business venture anymore. It was a fight for validation, for the recognition that diverse perspectives hold immense value, that innovation doesn't just come from established pipelines. It was a fight for fairness and equitable opportunity in an uneven playing field. He thought of the countless hours he'd spent researching, the conversations with environmental engineers, with supply chain managers who lamented the inefficiencies of current waste systems. He thought of the potential for real, tangible, positive impact, not just on balance sheets, but on the planet, on communities. Finch's dismissal felt like a denial of all that potential, a blind spot born of privilege and a narrow definition of what constitutes a viable business. Elijah decided to double down. He reached out to some of his earliest supporters, smaller, more agile companies that had seen the promise of EcoLoop even before it was fully developed. He scheduled follow-up calls, not to pitch aggressively, but to gather feedback, to refine, to iterate. He knew EcoLoop was strong. He just needed to find the right ears, the right eyes. He started attending smaller, more specialized tech conferences, focusing on sustainability and AI, seeking out innovators who shared his vision rather than clinging to the hope of traditional corporate giants. He spent an entire night reworking his pitch, stripping away some of the corporate jargon and focusing more on the human element, the global impact, the story behind EcoLoop. He recognized that Finch had seen a spreadsheet, but not the passion, the mission. He needed to find a way to convey the soul of EcoLoop, not just its mechanics. One afternoon, while working late, a surge of adrenaline hit him. He wasn't just building a platform, he was building a testament to his resilience, to the power of his community, to the undeniable truth that good ideas, truly revolutionary ideas, would always find their way. The dismissal by Alistair Finch had been a roadblock, not a dead end. And now, armed with a renewed sense of purpose, Elijah was ready to navigate around it, or perhaps simply build a bridge right over it. He had a vision, and he had the unyielding flame of conviction. He just needed one more chance to show it. The shift began subtly, a faint tremor in the industry's echo chamber. It started with a small online article, buried deep within a niche tech blog focused on sustainable innovation, highlighting EcoLoop as a, quote, disruptive force to watch. The article had come about through a chance encounter at one of the smaller conferences Elijah had attended, where he'd given an impromptu, impassioned talk that resonated with a freelance journalist. Then came a direct message on LinkedIn from a mid-level manager at Viridian Dynamics, a rising star in sustainable logistics, expressing interest in learning more about EcoLoop. This was followed by an email from a venture capitalist who had caught wind of the tech blog article and was intrigued by the concept. It wasn't the kind of earth-shattering attention Elijah had hoped for from Omnicorp, but it was momentum. Elijah pursued every lead with renewed energy. He tailored his pitches, focusing on the specific pain points of each potential partner. He emphasized EcoLoop's flexibility, its scalability, and its proven ability to integrate with existing infrastructure, mitigating the two disruptive concerns. He spoke not just of numbers, but of the transformative power of genuine sustainability. One particularly grueling week, after a series of exhausting virtual pitches, Elijah received an email that made him drop his coffee cup. The subject line read, Partnership Inquiry, Global Solutions Group. Global Solutions Group, GSG, was not just a top firm. They were the top firm in cutting-edge enterprise solutions. known for their aggressive pursuit of truly innovative technologies and their willingness to invest heavily in next-generation platforms. They were Omnicorp's fiercest, most forward-thinking competitor. The email was from Dr. Anya Sharma, GSG's Chief Innovation Officer. Her message was direct and enthusiastic. "Mr. Vance, your EcoLoop platform has come to our attention. We've been following the murmurs in the industry for some time, and after reviewing your white papers and recent press, we are profoundly impressed. We believe EcoLoop represents the future of industrial resource management and aligns perfectly with GSG's strategic vision for sustainable growth. We would like to schedule an urgent meeting to discuss a potential partnership." Elijah read the email 3 times, his mind reeling. Urgent meeting? Potential partnership? Just days after Alistair Finch had all but scoffed him out of his office? The irony was almost too much to bear. It felt like a cosmic validation, a resounding answer to every doubt Finch had sown. The meeting with GSG was a stark contrast to the Omnicorp debacle. Dr. Sharma was brilliant, incisive, and deeply engaged. She immediately grasped the nuances of EcoLoop's AI, its predictive capabilities, and its long-term strategic value. Her team, a diverse group of engineers and strategists, asked probing, intelligent questions that demonstrated a genuine understanding of the problem EcoLoop aimed to solve. They saw opportunity where Finch had seen only risk. They saw disruption as evolution, not a threat. Dr. Sharma spoke of de-risking innovation, of investing in the future of industry, not clinging to the past. She praised Elijah's foresight, his technical prowess, and his audacious vision. There was no condescension, no subtle dismissal. There was only genuine interest, respect, and a palpable excitement for the potential of EcoLoop. During the extensive technical and business discussions, it became clear that GSG had been actively searching for a solution exactly like EcoLoop. They recognized the global shift towards sustainability, the increasing pressure from consumers and regulators, and the inherent inefficiencies of traditional waste management. They saw EcoLoop as the competitive edge, the market differentiator they needed. Within a week of that initial meeting, GSG presented Elijah with a comprehensive partnership proposal. It wasn't just an investment, it was a full-fledged strategic alliance. They offered significant funding for immediate scaling, access to their vast client network, and most importantly, a dedicated team of GSG's top engineers and business developers to work alongside Elijah to accelerate EcoLoop's deployment and expansion. They saw him not just as a developer with a product, but as a visionary leader whose perspective was invaluable. The terms were beyond anything Elijah had imagined possible just weeks prior. They valued EcoLoop not just for its technology, but for the profound shift it represented. A shift towards environmental responsibility married with unprecedented economic efficiency. They were investing in the very eco-friendly angle that Finch had dismissed as mere optics. Elijah signed the partnership agreement with a steady hand, a profound sense of vindication washing over him. The path had been arduous, fraught with doubt and the sting of dismissal. But the whisper of a good idea, nurtured by resilience and a belief in its inherent value, had finally found its roar. And it was deafening enough to be heard even in the hallowed conservative halls of Omnicorp. News travels fast in the corporate world, especially when a major player like Global Solutions Group makes a significant strategic move. The announcement of GSG's partnership with EcoLoop sent ripples throughout the industry. Trade publications buzzed with headlines. GSG invests heavily in circular economy tech. EcoLoop set to revolutionize waste management. The financial implications for Omnicorp, known for its traditional, often outdated waste management solutions, were immediately apparent. Alistair Finch first heard the news indirectly, through the agitated whispers in the executive lounge, then through a pointed email from a junior analyst detailing GSG's new competitive advantage. He dismissed it initially, clinging to his previous assessment. "Fluff," he muttered, "all show and no substance. They'll burn through that investment in months." But the reports continued, growing louder, more specific. Major clients, some of Omnicorp's long-standing accounts, were beginning to inquire about GSG's innovative new waste optimization platform. The internal pressure on Finch began to mount. His colleagues, particularly those in the sustainability and innovation departments he had so often dismissed, started asking uncomfortable questions. "Mr. Finch, perhaps we should have taken a closer look at this EcoLoop." The irony was a bitter pill for Finch. He had positioned himself as the expert, the one who could sniff out a bad investment from a mile away. Now, his judgment was being quietly, yet definitively questioned. Elijah, meanwhile, was experiencing a whirlwind of activity. With GSG's resources, EcoLoop scaled at an astonishing pace. The platform was deployed in pilot programs across multiple continents, generating real-world data that far surpassed even Elijah's most optimistic projections. The cost savings for clients were undeniable, the environmental benefits measurable and profound. EcoLoop wasn't just a disruptive technology, it was a proven success. One afternoon, Elijah found himself on a panel discussion at a major industry summit, sharing a stage with Dr. Anya Sharma. The topic: the future of sustainable industry. During the Q&A, a question came from the audience. "Mr. Vance, what were some of the initial challenges you faced in getting EcoLoop off the ground? Did you encounter skepticism from established players?" Elijah paused, his gaze sweeping the packed auditorium. He saw a few familiar faces from Omnicorp scattered among the attendees, junior executives, perhaps even a few of Finch's direct reports. He knew Finch wouldn't be there, not after such a public misjudgment. "Indeed," Elijah said, his voice calm, confident, with a hint of quiet power. Early on, there was significant skepticism. Some decision-makers, deeply entrenched in traditional methodologies, struggled to grasp the paradigm shift EcoLoop represented. They viewed sustainability as a cost center, not a profit driver. They saw innovation, particularly from sources outside their traditional networks, as a risk rather than an opportunity. He didn't name Finch, he didn't have to. The implied criticism hung in the air, a silent, powerful indictment of a mindset, not just an individual. It wasn't just about the technology, Elijah continued. It was about challenging established narratives, about proving that a holistic, eco-conscious approach could deliver superior economic results. It was about overcoming the inertia of how things have always been done. The audience, especially the younger, more forward-thinking attendees, nodded in recognition. His words resonated with their own experiences of fighting for change within resistant corporate structures. A few days later, a cryptic email arrived in Elijah's inbox. It was from Alistair Finch. The subject line was simply, "Reflecting on EcoLoop." Elijah opened it, a knot of old emotions tightening in his stomach. He expected an apology, a rationalization, or perhaps even a renewed attempt to claim some past association. The email was short, formal, and utterly devoid of anything resembling genuine regret. It read, "Mr. Vance, I hope this email finds you well. I've been following the impressive developments with EcoLoop and your partnership with GSG. It appears your venture has indeed found its footing, and I congratulate you on your progress. Reflecting on our meeting some time ago, I perhaps underestimated the market's readiness for such a disruptive solution. In our position, we often have to make difficult calls based on prevailing market conditions and our strategic priorities at the time. I wish you continued success with EcoLoop. Sincerely, Alistair Finch, EVP, Operations, Omnicorp Solutions." Elijah read it once, twice. There was no apology for the dismissal, no acknowledgement of the injustice, no recognition of the personal toll Finch's actions had taken. It was a carefully worded, self-preserving message, admitting to a misjudgment of market readiness, not a misjudgment of Elijah's worth or his innovative vision. It was the best Finch could offer, a reluctant concession to undeniable market forces, dressed up as reflective insight. And yet, Elijah felt no surge of anger, no desire to retaliate. He simply felt a quiet sense of triumph. Finch's email was, in its own way, an admission that he had been wrong, an admission that he had missed out, an admission that a black entrepreneur, whose business model he had dismissed, had gone on to achieve remarkable success with his direct competitor. It wasn't the dramatic confrontation he might have once fantasized about. It was a silent reckoning, a subtle but profound shift in the corporate landscape. Elijah had not sought revenge. He had simply built a better future. And in doing so, he had proven, beyond any doubt, that true innovation, resilience, and the power of diverse voices would ultimately prevail, no matter how formidable the gatekeepers. His triumph was not just personal. It was a testament to the changing tides, a symbol of justice and fairness beginning to seep into the rigid structures of corporate power. The story of Elijah Vance and EcoLoop quickly became an industry legend. It was whispered in boardrooms, analyzed in business schools, and cited in articles on corporate innovation and diversity. It wasn't just a tale of entrepreneurial success. It was a powerful parable about implicit bias, the perils of corporate gatekeeping, and the undeniable strength required for marginalized voices to be heard, truly heard, in an often unresponsive world. Elijah, now a prominent figure in the sustainable tech space, used his platform to advocate for greater equity and inclusion in entrepreneurship. He established mentorship programs for aspiring Black and minority founders, ensuring they had access to resources, networks, and guidance that he himself had struggled to find. He spoke passionately about the need for venture capitalists and corporate leaders to broaden their perspectives, to actively seek out and value innovation from diverse backgrounds, understanding that the future of business lay not in homogeneity, but in the rich tapestry of varied experiences and ideas. He often reflected on his encounter with Alistair Finch. He bore no lingering resentment. The experience, while painful at the time, had ultimately forged him, solidifying his resolve and clarifying his mission. He recognized that Finch's dismissal was not solely about him, Elijah, but about a deeply ingrained corporate culture that prioritized tradition over disruption, and often, unconsciously, privileged familiar voices over groundbreaking ones. It was a manifestation of systemic issues where unconscious biases could lead to catastrophic blind spots for businesses and profound injustices for individuals. EcoLoop, under Elijah's leadership and GSG's strategic partnership, continued its meteoric rise. It became the industry standard, its success compelling even Omnicorp to eventually adopt similar, albeit less sophisticated, circular economy practices. The very problem Finch had claimed didn't exist was now acknowledged as a critical challenge by his own company, a testament to Elijah's original foresight. The triumph of Elijah Vance wasn't just about securing a lucrative partnership. It was about the validation of a vision that was initially dismissed, about the assertion of his worth in a space that had tried to diminish it. It highlighted the critical importance of respect and equality in the corporate world, that true innovation flourishes when all voices are given a fair hearing, when merit is judged on its own terms, free from prejudice and bias. His story serves as a profound lesson in resilience. It underscores that setbacks are not necessarily failures, but often detours on the path to greater success. It teaches us that true strength lies not just in overcoming external obstacles, but in conquering the internal demons of doubt and despair that can arise from injustice. It's a powerful testament to personal growth, showing how the fires of adversity can refine character and clarify purpose. For those facing similar dismissals, those whose brilliant ideas are overlooked because they don't fit a narrow, established mold, Elijah's journey offers a beacon of hope. It reminds us that fairness, though sometimes delayed, can ultimately prevail. It empowers us to trust our instincts, to double down on our unique perspectives, and to understand that the path to success is rarely straight or easy, particularly for those daring to disrupt. In a world striving for more justice and equity, Elijah Vance's narrative stands as a powerful reminder that the greatest innovations often emerge from the very places least expected, driven by individuals whose experiences give them unique insights. It is a heartfelt moment of triumph, an inspiring life story that speaks to the core of human perseverance, and a moral lesson for us all. True leadership recognizes potential, regardless of its packaging, and true progress embraces every voice.